Morning. My name is Sherry Gaugler-Stewart. I'm the Director of Family and Spiritual Recovery for the retreat in Wayzata, Minnesota. This is our Friday morning meditation session, which is an introduction to meditation. Meditation is so important to the 12-step recovery process that there's a step that is devoted to meditation. When you get to step 11, the words to that step are sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And so what I always think about is that, if there's only 12 steps and one of them has meditation clearly written in them, that must have felt important to those who started this program. It's something that we practice in the family program. It's something that we practice in our residential program and in our non-residential programs as well. We find it to be an important, really an integral part of what happens in recovery. Now, when I was new to this process, I really struggled with the idea of meditation, but I was brave when I was new also. I remember when I started going to meetings and I started being around other family members who I knew they were living my life. I knew that they knew what I was going through because they would share things about their stories, and I resonated so strongly. But there was something different about these people. They were calm. Some of them were joyful, and I did not feel that way at all. And so I got up some gumption when I was new, and I would ask people the question, and the question I would always ask is, why are you okay? Seemed like it was a relevant question. And they told me these things that were helping them to be okay. And one of those things that they had in common was that they were folks who practiced meditation. Now, what I knew about meditation at the time was that you needed to sit in the lotus position and chant. If you did it right, you might levitate. I didn't know what any of those words meant. They were just buzzwords I had heard about meditation. So I didn't know a lot about meditation, but even without knowing anything, I had already determined that I would not be able to meditate. I wasn't really sure that I wanted to meditate because I thought it was a new age thing. And I'm a fairly chatty gal, so sitting quietly for any length of time was never at the top of my list of things to do. There's a line in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous that talks about contempt prior to investigation. That was how I showed up sometimes with some things in my life. And the other thing that would happen for me, because I was living with active alcoholism, is that I had stopped asking questions. Because the price was too high with some of those answers, which then meant that I would go into this mode of trying to find little pieces of information and extrapolate great meaning from them, rarely being completely accurate. But what I knew is that I didn't want to do that with my recovery. I wanted to find out, okay, what is this about? And is it something I could do? And so I went into this with some open-mindedness and seeking. And so I read a lot of books. But books didn't help me to meditate. They just gave me some helpful information. Like, I found out that really meditation in its simplest definition is a deep concentration of the mind. And so when you hear about mindfulness, when you hear about being present, when you think about those things where your attention is completely focused, that is what's talked about with meditation. It's not a new age sort of thing. Every faith tradition has a form of meditation, even though they don't always name it meditation. Sometimes it's contemplation, sometimes it's reflection, but it's that opportunity for quiet and connection. So that was helpful. That helped me to think about the fact that if people had been doing this for years and years, centuries and centuries, maybe I could have that happen for me too. The other information that I found was that there are so many benefits that come from practicing meditation. Now, in the information that I've emailed you, there is a meditation tips sheet. It's going to talk about some of the things that I'm talking about in this session, just so that you have that handy, but it also has some of the benefits. But I've also written down some other benefits that I found. So above and beyond inner peace, like if inner peace is not the ideal that you're going for with meditation, there are clinically proven benefits: fewer hospitalizations for heart disease, tumors, and infectious diseases, fewer needs for doctor's visits. Meditation lowers your blood pressure. It increases your circulation. There's relief of chronic pain, decrease of insomnia. Reduction of blood sugar in diabetics is always fascinating to me. So meditation can shift what's going on with the chemistry of our body. Let's see what else. Decrease in anxiety. Meditation helps with addictions. My personal favorite is that meditation appears to slow the aging process. So I guess we can have vanity be our motivation. But what's lovely is regardless of why you choose to meditate, be it spiritual connection, solitude, calming down your mind, health benefits, you get all of the other benefits too. It's not like you just get the one. So that was really helpful information, but it didn't help me to form a practice. And so I had some friends who gave me meditation CDs, and those were really great in the fact that when they would lead the meditation, it was very calming. Somebody with a lovely voice would guide me through. But for whatever reason, the meditation CDs always had big chimes or gongs that were startling to me, so that wasn't helpful. Eventually, I found a meditation teacher. And so what happened for me is I got to feel what meditation felt like, and then I got to find out what other things I was already doing that would be considered meditation with the right intention. And that's what we do with you over this weekend. Is we're going to keep on giving you meditation practices so that you can feel what meditation feels like, so you can make that connection as well. Because what I know to be true is that we're all a little different. And so if you're visually stimulated, you might need to look at something. You might need to look at art. You might need to look at the flicker of a flame. That might be how you connect. If you're somebody who's more audio stimulated, listening to classical music, listening to nature sounds, that might be how you connect in all of this. If you're an extrovert, like I'm an extrovert, sitting quietly may not be the right form of meditation for you. For me, my favorite form of meditation is walking. And I have to have the right intention. If I'm going outside and I'm by myself, I can get connected, I get into a rhythm, I can have a similar experience that I have to a seated meditation. If I'm walking with my husband or a friend, it's a different experience. I have to be intentional about that walking meditation. I have a friend who runs, and she describes this place where she gets to, where she calls it the zone. She gets into the zone. And when she describes that to me, it sounds very much like meditation. Now, sometimes people need to use their hands. My husband in gardening, that's his meditation. He's also a musician, so that is another meditative place for him. Sometimes people will knit or use cooking or create art. I'm not of the Catholic faith tradition, but I have friends who are. When I watch what happens with rosary beads, that feels like it would be very meditative. So as we progress through this, consider those things that you can be present to. That will be helpful. So what happened for me when I found this meditation teacher is a couple of things that I learned that I've carried through with all of my meditation practice. And I want to talk just for a moment about meditation as a practice. I really like using that word with meditation because I think about what are those other things that we practice. If I want to learn how to play piano, I'm not going to sit down on the first day and play Beethoven. I'm going to play a pretty poor rendition of Chopsticks. I might polish that up a little bit and get to Mary Had a Little Lamb. Maybe I'd make some progress, but I'm never going to get anywhere if I don't take some time to practice every day. So I feel like it's really important to set aside some time that you can just give to meditation. And I'll talk a little bit more about timing in a bit. So in that first learning of meditation, two things that really stood out for me is one, there are times in meditation where you're going to have a profound experience, an overwhelming sense of well-being, maybe some answers that will pop into your head to some questions that you've been grappling that you can't quite explain why they're suddenly there. But it's not the meditation time, it's the 24 hours afterward where you'll really notice a difference, because those profound experiences don't necessarily happen every day. But how you show up in the world will start to shift and change with meditation. And that's a test that you can run. Make a commitment, meditate every day, and then take a day off. That's what happened for me. I had one of those days where I was just running late and I flew out the door. Completely different day than those days that I had up until that point where I would just take some moments to center before I left. So that's one thing I learned. And then the other thing is that your mind is going to do what your mind does. Like, I think that sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to sit down and meditate and I think I'm supposed to empty my mind and that's suddenly going to happen. It takes practice. And so it's what you do with those thoughts when they happen that helps you to kind of start increasing that meditation muscle. So your brain has been designed to think about things and figure things out and solve problems and plan. And just because you're meditating doesn't mean that it will just shut off. What's helpful to do is when those thoughts bubble up, don't judge yourself. Just acknowledge them and gently bring yourself back to whatever we're focusing on with our meditation. There's no need for judgment. See, I told you I couldn't meditate is not going to be helpful. It's just, okay, there's my brain, and now let's bring myself back. And I want you to know that that particular practice with meditation on a daily basis has been imperative to the rest of my life. Because if there's some sort of drama or crisis happening, and for those of us who love somebody who struggles with this disease, sometimes there's drama or crisis, or perceived drama or crisis. Including in the first year, what we know to be true is that the first year of somebody's recovery is the most difficult. And that makes all the sense in the world to me, because they're trying to figure out how are they going to navigate their lives without using the thing that they've been using to navigate their lives. That's not an easy thing to do. And sometimes as a family member, I want to tell my loved one what I'm seeing with them. I want to celebrate the good. I want to tell them to look out for the things that look kind of scary to me. And what I always think about is we as family members can get sometimes caught up in narrating our loved one's roller coaster ride. I don't think that that would be helpful if I were on a roller coaster ride, but I have that impulse as a family member. So what meditation helps me to do is acknowledge, like, oh, there's something going on over there, but then I get to bring myself back to how do I want to show up in all of this? Who's the person that I want to be in this particular instance? That's something that when I'm focusing and practicing meditation every day, it helps me to bring that out into my world. Now, sometimes we get caught up in logistics, like, okay, how am I supposed to sit? What am I supposed to do? And there are some schools of meditation that are very specific about that, but we're more meditation generalists here. But there are some helpful things that I think you can do, especially when you're new to meditation, to help you to settle into that. The first thing that I think it's really helpful to do is to minimize any visual distractions. So that might mean pulling the blinds. That might mean shutting the door, closing your eyes. Oftentimes people will close their eyes for meditation. If you're somebody who wears contact lenses, if you close them for too long, that can feel kind of drying. And so if you can find something to have a soft focus on, that can help you to minimize any visual distractions. I also think that it can be helpful to minimize any audio distractions. So for you, that might be a quiet place in your house or a quiet time of day. If you've got little guys running around, it might be a little bit of time before they get up, or a little bit of time after they go to bed at night. So finding that quiet so that you can stay in that meditation place for a while without any distractions or interruptions. How do you sit? Sometimes you picture people sitting on the floor, and you can do that if you're comfortable. I think it's important to be in a position where you know you can be and not fidget. If I'm not comfortable, I'm going to start fidgeting. That's going to distract me from my meditation. I think that it's helpful for many people to have their feet planted on the floor because it helps you to be a little more stable. Sometimes people feel like they're a little more grounded. I'm somebody who has an old knee injury, and I always feel better when my leg is tucked under me. So that's how I sit for meditation. Having your shoulders back helps you to breathe a little more freely. I'm a visual person. It helps me to feel like my heart's a little more open. So that's a helpful stance to have in all of this. Sometimes people like to lie on the floor. And that's great as long as you can stay awake, because even though napping is lovely, it's not actually meditation. So you just need to find that position, that area that's going to feel like you can just be there and be in that zone for a period of time. So I'm just going to look at my notes to see if there's anything else I want to share about before we go into some meditation practice this morning. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on breathing. And I really like that because You already have everything you need. You and your breath is all that's required of these meditation practices. What I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to offer you 3 different meditation exercises. And as we go through them, you can decide if you want to try the next one or if you want to stay connected to the one prior. What it's really about, let's find what works best for you in all of this. Some things I really like about focusing on breathing: it can help you to reset your nervous system, so that's helpful. The other thing that I always think about with breathing is it helps me to be present. And that's important because when I get scared, it's because I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next, or I'm trying to figure out what went wrong in the past. But the only place I can breathe is right here. I can't rebreathe 3 weeks ago. I can't breathe next Tuesday. And so if I can focus on breathing, it's part of that thing that brings me to the present. So that's what we're going to do today, is focus on some breathing meditations. So what I would like you to do to start out is to sit back, make sure you're comfortable. I would ask you to either close your eyes or lower your eyes so that you're minimizing any visual distractions. And allow yourself to take in 3 deep breaths and hold them in a way that they're deep and you're holding on to them for a moment. Don't make yourself uncomfortable. You'll know when you need to release them. But those 3 clearing breaths can be really helpful to meditation. So let's start there with 3 deep breaths. And as you continue to breathe in and out, allow yourself to settle in your seat a bit more. There's nothing else you need to do right now. There's no place else you need to be. The only requirement during our meditation time is that you sit and breathe. And so for the first breathing meditation I'd like to offer, I'd like you to internally count your breaths to yourself. So when you inhale, count 1, exhale, count 2, inhale, count 3, and so on until one of 2 things happens. If you get to the number 10, start over. If another thought bubbles into your head, again, do not judge yourself. Just start back over at the number 1. And that will be our first breathing meditation exercise for this morning. And for the second meditation exercise, I want you to just pay attention to how your breathing feels. So with your eyes closed, follow the path each breath takes as you inhale. Notice the rhythm that's created as your lungs fill and empty. Follow the path each breath takes as you exhale. Or just notice the characteristics of your breathing, the moisture, the temperature, the sensations. So focus on what your breathing feels like, or feel free to continue on with the prior meditation exercise. And for the final meditation exercise, if you're somebody who is visually stimulated, imagine that there's a puff of air that you can see at the front of your nose. Maybe it has color, maybe it doesn't, but you're watching yourself breathe it in and out. If you are somebody who is more audio stimulated, just listen to the sound of your breathing. Allow that to be your focal point. Or if you resonate more with the prior meditations, feel free to continue along with those. And when you feel ready this morning, gently bring your awareness back into this room and open your eyes. Thank you. So for those of you who are curious, that was 10 minutes from when I asked you to close your eyes until I asked you to open them. And for some of you that may have gone by quickly, others it may have taken a little longer, at least it felt a little longer, just because it's different for everybody, the connection they're going to find to meditation. But I do want to talk a little bit about timing, because I think that sometimes when we are urged to bring a new practice into our lives, we just think, holy cow, where are we going to fit that in? But even small pieces of time have great benefit. In the research sheet that I sent you, some of those studies are there. There's research that shows that if you are having an initial occurrence of an emotion, something happened, an emotion pops up for you, the actual physiology of that emotion is 90 seconds long. If we can find a way to breathe through that emotion, we can get on to whatever is happening next. But I don't know about you guys, but I have lived a lot longer than 90 seconds in emotions because sometimes I've refueled them. But that initial occurrence in my body is only 90 seconds. 90 seconds of breathing and meditation has benefit. There's also a study that's been done that shows that if you can focus on meditation for just 3 minutes, it brings down your stress level in a measured amount. 3 minutes when I'm under a deadline seems like it goes by really fast. 3 minutes when I'm just breathing feels like a little bit of a break in my day. And so just 3 minutes can be enough to help you in your meditation practice. If you can just find 3 minutes, that will be beneficial. The other thing that I wanted to say is that meditation piece of things, when you are focusing on your lungs filling and emptying, if you struggle with insomnia, that can be really helpful to do at the end of the day to help you to be able to sleep better. So I wanted to share that too. Now on the sheet that I have emailed you about meditation, there is some resources on the bottom of that document. So there's a book that I don't love the title, but I like the exercises inside of it. It's called Meditation for Dummies. No insinuation. It's just got really helpful information in there. There's a website that I've put there that has some helpful meditations that are in a variety of different faith traditions that you can explore. And then now with smartphones, there are so many really great meditation apps. And so I have a couple of those suggested too that either somebody, well, people who I love have personally used and recommend them. So just know that above and beyond what we're doing here this weekend, there are additional resources. Sometimes community ed classes will teach meditation. There will be other ways that you can find to discover what works for you. But tomorrow we're going to offer you a different form of meditation so that you can feel what that one feels like. So thank you for starting the day with meditation with me, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day.